Okay, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of you. Arnon in the house, coming to all of you live. So good to be here for another Wednesday Word of Wisdom. Wednesday Words of Wisdom with yours truly. So let's give everyone a moment to enter. Timo, good to see you. Gwendy, good to see you. Good to see you guys. So we've got Facebook in the house, we've got Instagram in the house, and today we're going to talk about a very sad but very real subject that I've experienced twice in my life as a businessman, entrepreneur, business owner / business leader. So good to be here. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you have kickstarted 2022 off with a bang. A big year in front of us, an important year in front of us. And I'm wishing all of you a lot of strength and a lot of power. So let's dive right into the session. So today's session is sadly something that I've experienced twice in my entrepreneurial life. And it basically sums it up in the topic of this conversation. And the topic of this session is how to deal with the death of a team member of yours in business. And so where did this topic come from? Obviously, when I create these lives and I'm sharing stories from the world of business and from the entrepreneurial landscape that I live in, I share it with you guys and gals from what is happening to me and the experiences that I'm going through. But also, as you know, I coach some really amazing businesses, some amazing companies. I'm very blessed to work with some phenomenal entrepreneurs and business leaders. And so sometimes I share stories from those experiences. And so today I want to share about how to deal with the death of a team member in your business. And sadly, this comes from something that I experienced for the second time a week ago. So a week ago, my second in command in my business, in one of my companies, sadly, and may God rest his soul, because he was a beautiful spirit. He was an amazing man, and he was one of our, he was a warrior. He was a warrior, a true warrior, a kind warrior, and a person that I am blessed to have had worked with. And he passed away. He died last week, very sadly. He had some underlying issues. He passed away Now, he was the second in command. His actual role in one of my companies was labeled as CFO, Chief Financial Officer. Now, for those of you who are not aware of, a Chief Financial Officer is basically the person who controls everything when it comes to the finance, the money, the financial forecasting, the financial modeling, everything that's got to do with profitability, numbers. He was the go-to guy, and he worked very closely and alongside my CEO, and obviously they had a very strong relationship. So very sad to have lost a wonderful comrade and colleague and person in our business. And so how do you deal with situations like that? Now, when I started this session, I said to you, this is not the first time it's happened to me. Many years ago, some of you might know this, some of you might not know this, but many years ago, I've been an entrepreneur for many years, and I've done all kinds of weird, wonderful, and wacky things in my entrepreneurial career. And one of the things that I actually built and created and then eventually sold was I built a nightclub That's right. Yours truly built a nightclub. So I built a nightclub in Holland, in Amsterdam, many years ago. I had a vision, I had an idea. I went out, I found a location, I brought in business partners, I raised capital with the support of my co-founders and my team, obviously. I can't take all the credit. I had some amazing people that were with me on that journey and worked alongside with me to make that, at that time, a success. But I remember that there was one point in time where I had a builder, a contractor, who was scheduled to build the nightclub because I had I had got my hands on an asset, on a building that had a license to build a nightclub in it. But it was just a shell. It was just a shell. It was completely ripped to pieces inside, and it was a really interesting and a very powerful experience for me to build and create such a project. Long story short, I had a contractor, one of the builders, one of the main builders, who was supposed to build the club. And his project, the money we were going to spend on him, which was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros at the time to build this club, he actually wanted, and we wanted as well, for him to exchange some of those costs into shares. See, it's a creative way of doing business, right? So instead of spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros on building the nightclub, we would spend a lot less, but in exchange, we would give him shares in the holding company, so he would become a shareholder. Minority shareholder, but he would have shares in the business. And he was a really good guy, great guy, big heart. I like to work with people that have heart. I like to work with people that are good people. And he was just that. He was a good person. He had a tremendously kind heart. Long story short, we had pretty much agreed the rough terms of the deal of what it would look like and what it would sound like. And I remember that we even paid him a deposit, like we paid him a small deposit of, I think it was around maybe 50 or 60,000 euros as a deposit for the work that he was going to do. And I'll never forget this. It was an early Saturday morning. I get a phone call from my interior architect who knew him from the past doing other projects together. I get a call on the phone from my interior architect saying to me, Arnon, Don, his name was Don drove his car and unfortunately he had an accident and he had a very, very deadly accident and he passed away. And I remember I couldn't believe it. Obviously, when you hear these things, one of the first things that comes up or tends to come up is shock. My natural responses to those situations is tremendous shock and incredible sadness. That's my default energy when I hear those kind of situations. It's shock with incredible sadness. And I remember being in tears as I was a week ago. And so how do you overcome those situations? One of the things that we tend to do, or what I tend to do in those situations is, first of all, it gives me, obviously I like to reach out to the family, to talk to the family, but being very sensitive and emotionally intelligent around it, because obviously they're grieving, they're sad, they must be in complete shock. So being a leader in the organization, being one of the co-founders or the owners of the business, when you lose an employee, there's a tremendous amount of respect that you need to give to the family that is healing, that is grieving, that is in shock. And so I like to be sensitive about that. That's the first thing I do. Another thing that's really important for me is to reach out to the family and offer support. And I did that in the past, and I will do it now. I've done it now as well. And so during these times of sadness and losing someone that maybe is close to you or work closely to you, it's a great time to offer support to the family. And that's something we've done, we're doing. And then obviously there's the whole question of taking this as a lesson. The crazy thing about life, my friends, is that nobody gets out alive. Nobody gets out alive. And so, when I go through an experience, when I lose someone that I've worked closely with for the last few years, and, we spent hours on Zoom calls, in meetings, over dinners, strategizing, planning, working, putting our brains together to find solutions to challenges and problems that arise from buying companies, doing big business. You get to know people. And so obviously reaching out to the family was a big one for me. And I hope to attend his funeral in respect and admiration of the time that we did spend together. And obviously breaking the news to all my co-founders and all my shareholders in the business, I took that upon myself as one of the leaders to do that. And I did that as soon as possible. So you can imagine the amount of sadness and shock everyone was in when they heard that one of our warriors has departed this world and moved on to somewhere maybe better. But as a leader, you have to deal with these things. And we've got to learn as leaders to deal with the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, and all of that. Now, something I don't really talk about too quickly, but I think it's important because I create these videos to give all of you value. I want you to leave here with some real value. One of the key things that I experienced in the past, many years ago, when I lost one of my first business partners, was that we didn't actually have a solid, signed shareholders agreement in place. So we'd agreed terms, we had transferred about 60,000 euros to him as a deposit on the works. And because we didn't have a solid, signed and agreed upon shareholders agreement for the distribution of the shares and what that would look like, I remember that unfortunately we had to be in a position where a couple of weeks later we had to speak to now his wife, the person who was leading the funeral and the departure of our business partner. We had to have a very sad and a very open but a very calm and kind meeting with her, explaining to her that, we've transferred to him 60,000 euros and we do need that money back because obviously, sadly, he couldn't do the work. He was, he passed away. And I remember because things weren't signed and weren't clear and weren't in writing, and we didn't even consider that someone would pass away, that lesson cost us, I think it was about 30,000 euros because the wife had claimed that, he put in so many hours, he should deserve something. Now, that is open for discussion and that could be argued back and forth. But the reality is we lost on that experience a good friend, a partner, someone we loved. And, I hate to put it in the same conversation, but we also lost a lot of money because we weren't structured legally and protected from crazy things that can happen. Now, with the partner and our warrior that we lost a week ago, we were very fortunate that we had a shareholders agreement in place to protect him, to protect us, to protect the business. And we did put in a clause, what would happen if any one of us would sadly depart. And so I share this with you from a place of sadness and great amount of grieving, but also as a lesson, all my entrepreneurs and business owners out there, you've got to think about these things. When you're doing business with people and you're signing joint ventures and you're working with partners, it's very important to ask the questions, what happens if we build a business 50-50 and God forbid something happens to me tomorrow, next week, next month, in a year from now? What happens to the shares of my business, to the money in my business that I deserve, which is 50% mine? because I'm 50% shareholder. Who gets that? Does it go to my son? Does it go to, who does it go to? So again, I'm sharing this stuff with you because I want you to learn from what I'm going through to make your journey less painful, and also share with you some pearls of wisdom so you can avoid the mistakes that I've made in the past, but also help you avoid mistakes that other people are making. They say a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from other people's mistakes and experiences. So I don't want you, ladies and gentlemen, to be smart. I want you to be wise, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, come to you live with that idea, with that mindset, with that psychology, that people are going to come and people are going to go. That is the cycle of life. But you got to be prepared for it. And you got to be prepared to prepare for it from a contractual standpoint. But you also have to be mentally and emotionally prepared that some of the people that you're working with today and will work with tomorrow, they might not be here forever. So make sure you know the families, make sure you know who the daughter is or the husband is or the family is, just in case something happens. Because when something does happen, and it's happened to me, we start scrambling and we don't know who to call, who to talk to, who's the next of kin. And so yeah, I just want to pass on that message to all of you. So on that note, I hope you guys got some value out of today. Great coming to you live. Stay tuned. We've got some very cool sessions in the coming weeks. And we're going to come to you with some better news in the future, but also give you some motivation, strategies, tips, tools, tricks, and shortcuts to help you achieve your location freedom, your time freedom, and your financial freedom. So until next week, stay strong, stay in your power, live well. And if you're watching this, I'm going to ask every single one of you to reach out to one person that you love, because you don't know how long they're going to be here amongst us. Reach out to one person that you love, maybe someone you haven't spoken to for a long time. And they might not be open to receive your message because of where they are at. Remember, they didn't see this video. They didn't see this live. But just send them some love. So until next week, ciao.